In this video, we're going to look at a variety of ways that you might actually change the for loop when you are processing an array. And so when you fill the array, in this particular scenario, we're filling the array going from low to high. You technically don't have to fill it that way. There's a variety of different ways that we could actually work with this and manipulate this. You could fill the array from the last element down to the first element if you wanted to. So we're going to start on the last element, and then we're going to fill down to the first element, which remember is at an index of 0. And so we're going to have to switch this up quite a bit. One thing we have to remember if we're going to fill the array backwards is that we have to start at the last index. So the last index is going to be nums.size minus 1. Because in this case, the size of our array is 4. I'm going to start at index 3. So I have to subtract 1 from the size of the array. And then I have to switch around my inequality symbol here. And I need to go all the way down to index 0. And instead of incrementing, I need to decrement. And so now if we execute this code, we're going to see that it fills all of the values. And now interestingly, our index jumps down to -1 because it's at 0. And what's 0 minus 1? It goes to -1. And so we don't typically do that, but what I'm trying to show is that you can actually process an array kind of going backwards. Another thing that, and the other thing we haven't really dealt with this a whole lot because it's going to get crazy on our screen, but if I try to increase my array size to 10, I can easily do that in Coral, and then we have 10 elements. I've been keeping it at a low number in order for us to see this on the screen, but you could very easily kind of ramp up how many elements that you're running. Let me go ahead and leave it at 10, and then let's actually think about how could I print the last 5 elements in the array. So I'm going to start at the end of the array again. So I'm going to borrow this code, copy it, and then I wanted to just print the last 5. So there's more than one way that I could do this, but now it's going to be a little bit trickier, and I have to think about this a second. I'm going to create a new variable, and I'm going to call it last index, and last index is going to be assigned nums.size minus 1. So I'm going to start at the last index. And the reason I did that is it sometimes is a little bit easier for us to understand the problem if we use very descriptive variables. And then I want to go down, and I want to go down 5 elements. So I want to take last index minus 5. Now I might have an off by 1 error, and I'm going to go down. I'm going to decrement. And so I want to then just put to output the array element. So I have to use the name of the array, and then I use the index. And as we have discovered, we also want to put some type of separator. So we're going to put a space. Let's see if we get 5 elements or we get more than 5 elements out printed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I only have the last 5 elements that was printed out of that particular situation. What's kind of cool about this is, and working with arrays, is if I go back in here, sorry, I don't know why my screen is so jumpy. Let's go back to, let's just start with 5 elements, and then let's say we wanted to print the last 3. I don't have to make too many changes in my code. I could do this, enter execution and run, and now I got the last 3. It's very easy for me to do what we call scaling the code. I can scale it up, I can scale it down. If we go back into this, and let's say that I'm going to exit execution, let's say that I want to print every other element. Okay, I want to print every other element. And let's also print backwards. So we're going to start with this for loop. And I'm going to print every other element. But instead of doing I equals I minus 1, I'm going to do I equals I minus 2. And so that's going to go backwards and print every other element. And I'm going to borrow my output code here. And I'm going to take out the last 3 just so we can see that this prints. What did it? Oh, it printed every other one. So it started at the end. It started at 200, and then it printed 101, and then it printed 152. And again, because this is an array, and the way that I'm working with the code, what if I had an even number of elements? Is this code still going to work? Hit execute, run. Does it print 186, 123, 124? It still prints every other element. And so lots of variety that we can do, and lots of changes that we can make when we're processing with arrays. You don't always have to count up. You can count backwards, and then there's a variety of different things that you could do. You could count backwards by 2. We could also count forwards by 2. It would be similar situation, but you would increment by 2 instead. And that's, well, and let's just do that real quick. Okay. I'm kind of getting tired. I imagine you guys might be kind of tired. I don't know. But if we switched it around where we were going to go forward instead of backwards, we would start with index 0. I would process until I get to nums less than nums.size, and I would increment by 2. So kind of interestingly here, do you predict whether the output is going to be the same or whether the output is going to be different? And let's see what happens. So same array, I'm printing every other element backwards, and then I'm going to print every other element forwards. Am I going to get the same results? We will find out. Different results. How come? And so since it starts counting at 0, it's going to go 0, 2, 4, and the other one prints 5, 3, 1. So, this could actually be an algorithm for randomly assigning players to 2 different teams. I could have an array, and so instead of printing, I could say players for team 1, players for team 2, and it's not really random because it's going to pick every other one. But if I fill it randomly to start with, then those would be kind of some randomization things going on. All right, that's just a little bit about printing and working with array elements going backwards and forwards.